people do things that make them want to hide the truth because they are humans. And because they are humans, they are capable of making mistakes. But what do we mean by mistake? If you look at it from that perspective, now the question becomes, but why would you make mistakes? Why would you cheat on your wife? Why would you, because practical questions. But then now that brings up another question, mistakes. So when we talk about mistakes, now we will think that mistakes are primarily a bad thing, but mistakes aren't a bad things if you understand on a basic level what mistakes are. The reason why we are capable of making mistakes, not every species or animal or being has the capacity to make mistakes. Mistakes is actually a gift that has been bestowed on our species. A computer machine doesn't have the capacity to make mistakes because it operates within a prescribed law of garbage in, garbage out, a prescribed law that has been pre-programmed for it to follow, prescripted for it to follow. But the ability to go off the script, to go outside of the script, is a capacity that you humans developed when we developed the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex of our mind, the conscious mind, allows you to go out of your genetic blueprint, out of the prescribed scripts of your genetic blueprint, your social scripts, your societal scripts, and whatever kind of script that has been prescribed. You have the capacity to go out of it. And that in and of itself is the capacity for creativity. So the reason why you are able to make mistakes is because you are creative. Only creative species, only creative beings can make mistakes. So when the question is asked, why do people want to make things that will make them hide the truth? It's because they are capable of making mistakes, because they are creative. But the problem now comes in when not every action, not every step that you take, not every creative step that you take is beneficial to every member of your group. It's beneficial to yourself and to others. Sometimes these creative steps that you take might turn out to be something that you would look out in retrospect, and then you find that those things are not, they're shameful, or things that you wouldn't like to admit that you have done. And the reason you wouldn't like to admit it is because you will hurt the other people's feelings, or the other people would discriminate against you or treat you unfairly. And so because of that, you want to hide that truth so that you can still enjoy the cordial relationship and enjoy the respect that you earn from others. But this is where empathy comes in, and this is where a sense of belonging and understanding, a higher sense of understanding comes in, for both for parents and for even couples in relationships. Now, the empathy that comes in here is that if you accept the fact that we humans are creative, and because of our capacity of creativity, we can make mistakes, mistakes being actions that are unfavorable in retrospect, then you can have the empathy, the understanding to allow people to say the truth, to tell the story of their creative past and how they have gone through it. And then you accept them for who they are, humans capable of being creative, and those creative acts turning into mistakes. So when you accept that fact, you can look at them from the lens of empathy, that you accept them for who they are. So when you accept people for who they are, creative beings, then they can share the mistakes that they have made in the past, and then we can learn from them. We can correct and then make changes accordingly. Now, the dangerous thing that happens when we don't accept this truth, this fact of our nature, that human beings are capable of making mistakes because they are creative, when we don't accept it and we look at it only from one angle, and that is the angle of mistakes and the negative implications and consequences of mistakes, what happens is that we'll stifle creativity. And you see this in companies, you see this in relationships, we see this in families when our parents are raising children. Because we have such a hostile attitude towards mistakes, we, in the bid of preventing mistakes, we stifle creativity and we stifle the rise of insight. And so that is why you see in corporations and organizations, people, out of the fear of not making mistakes, fail to try out novel ideas, and they fail to come up with insights that drive growth. Evolution only happens in the presence of creativity, because even natural selection happens because of the presence of chaotic iterations of different models of reality. So nature had to do a lot of iterations. It could do a rendering of many simulations of different species, and then only a few would survive. So which means nature in and of itself, because of its creative ability, tries out a lot of things. So you can try out 1 billion experiments only for one to happen. The other 99 billion or 99% that didn't work are effectively mistake by definition, by how we define it. But the 1% that work, that gave birth to a new species, is actually that creative being, is actually the most powerful force, and that is what we see. That is the beauty of life. It is from there that the beauty of life emerges. The beauty of life emerges from the iterations of nature that produces the mistakes and the fortunate things that come out of it. So we want to be accommodating of people who make mistakes, because these mistakes is simply iterative applications that I have tried out to see how they can come up with the best situation of making decisions. So in retrospect, if we start looking at it, we'll find out that the reason why we make such mistakes is that if we had a better understanding of the whole reality, then we wouldn't have made some of those mistakes. So it is this empathy that comes with a higher understanding of who we are that will allow us to create the room for people to try a lot of stuff, make mistakes, and then eventually come up with creative insights to solutions that have landlocked us in problems that have stifled our growth. So for growth to happen, mistakes has to happen, because mistakes is simply a byproduct or a collateral damage of the creative process of natural selection, of life, of growth.